Reveal yourself, you witch Gomda kept screaming. Show yourself, and I will lift your neck off your body, you cursed being. His voice tore through the stillness, a raw, powerful sound that was part battle cry, part mourning wail.
Previously on The Demon Child.
No! Deji roared, his voice reverberating through the forest. He lunged forward, swinging his spear through Oje's form. Though it passed through her like smoke, the act broke her concentration. You can fight me, Deji, but you cannot escape me. I am in your blood now. Deji stood alone.
Well, well. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, you need to subscribe, so you can watch me defeat your heroes.
A person often meets his destiny on the road he took to avoid it. This is the case of Iyanga and Deji, the defendants of Omidan's most precious jewel, Obika. The path of the mountains was steep and sloppy. It took extra care from Iyanga not to slip off the mountain on her quest to discover the Jalo tribe. Iyanga marveled at the resilience of the mountain tribe. How had they adapted to such heights? Did they possess secret footwear for these treacherous climbs, or perhaps wings hidden beneath their garments? For her, each step was a battle against gravity. Obika, on the other hand, was enjoying the process. He seems fascinated by height. On reaching a plateau, Iyanga exhaled deeply, her face flushing with the rush of relief. She removed Obika from her back, laying him upon a spread cloth. As she settled beside him, their laughter mingled, echoing off the stoic mountain faces. But the peace was short-lived. A rustle in the underbrush snapped Iyanga to alertness. She clutched her spear tightly, senses heightened, as Obika's markings began to emit a soft, ominous glow, a prelude to danger. Her heart hammered against her ribs as the silhouette of a mountain lion emerged, its eyes locked onto them with predatory precision. The mountain had thrown its first challenge their way. Back in Omidan, the king, driven by desperation and tales of Uje, gathered some of the finest warriors and sent them to go look for Iyanga and Obika. Bearing the weight of their forefathers' sin, they vow not to return without securing Iyanga's safety, as it now obvious that the destiny of their kingdom lays on the shoulder of young Obika. As they delve deeper into the haunted woods where Iyanga was last seen, the air grows thick with the echo of ancient curses. The forest, alive with the malevolent spirit of Oj, preys upon their fears. Illusions of their own gruesome demises flicker before their eyes. Spectral whispers of Oj taunt them. One of the brave warriors named Jato started hearing his name whispered from the woods. The whispers grew louder, morphing into the anguished cries of the ghosts from his past, accusing him. The voices twisted his memories, presenting grotesque visions of his past, condemning him from the beyond. They spoke of an eternal curse that Jato had unwittingly reignited by stepping into the forest. Caught in a web of his escalating fears, Jato's reality blurred with spectral illusions. He began to see the faces of everyone that had ever met their end through his sword. Their faces were on every leaf and rock. In a moment of sheer panic, driven by the cacophony of accusing voices and his vivid, disturbing hallucinations, Jato turned and fled. He kept on screaming, "Leave me, get out of my head!" He ran with a desperate, wild abandon, ignoring the calls of his fellow warriors who were themselves grappling with their own unseen horrors. "Jato, Jato, hold on," they screamed and chased after him. But it felt like Jato was being led to his doom by some spiritual forces. Uje, the mastermind behind Joto's torment. He kept hearing screams of children, villages he had burnt down during battles, innocent villagers who had met their doom by the edge of his sword. In his moment of struggles, he stood at the edge of a rock, when all of a sudden everything went quiet, as if it was a terrible nightmare, but it was already too late. He was right where Uje needed him to be. All of a sudden, a rock fell from the mountain, and just like that, Jato was squashed. Panic and confusion spread like wildfire into their camp, as each and every one of them got set up for the unknown doom that lurks in the dark. Another warrior, Gomda, faced a different kind of torment. Known for his unyielding courage, Gomda suddenly found himself reliving the worst battle of his life, a past skirmish where he had witnessed the death of his brother. Gomda, with his reputation as a steadfast warrior, could never have anticipated the psychological warfare he would face within the deceptive calm of the forest. As the evening shadows grew longer, so did the specters of his past. He stumbled through the underbrush, his senses overwhelmed by the surreal fusion of the forest's nocturnal sounds and the echoes of a long-lost battlefield. Suddenly, the ghostly image of his brother, vibrant and alive as he had been on that fateful day, appeared before him. The vision was so vivid, so real, that Gomda reached out, only to grasp at the chilling air. The haunting memory of his brother's fall, a moment that had scarred Gomda's soul, replayed with tormenting clarity. He saw the flash of the enemy's blade, heard the sickening thud of his brother's body hitting the ground, his blood soaking into the earth. Driven by a surge of anguish and anger, Gomda drew his weapon, his eyes darting around as the shadows seemed to morph into the enemies of his past. Each leaf flutter and twig snap was perceived as a threat. "Reveal yourself, you witch," Gomda kept screaming. "Show yourself, and I will lift your neck off your body, you cursed being." His voice tore through the stillness, a raw, powerful sound that was part battle cry, part mourning wail. As he swung his weapon, each empty strike fueled his fury and frustration. His physical exertions, coupled with the emotional tumult, became his undoing. Uja laughter burst through the air. The line between reality and hallucination blurred until the only opponent left to battle was his grief. Gomda broke down in tears. Everyone knew how much he loved his brother, but death had taken him. In the moment of his wailing, approached Jigoku, his trusted friend and confidant. Jiotku approached cautiously, calling his name Gomda. Gomda. "Nothing happening here is real," he said, as he laid his hands on his shoulders. Gomda stood up with fierce anger and swept his sword through Jiotku. It was at this point he regained consciousness to the reality of what just happened. Gomda screamed for help, but it was already too late, for Jidoku's body dropped to the earth. In his pain and anguish, he drove the sword through himself, and just like that, 3 of the Omidan finest warriors were gone. In these woods, the line between reality and illusion blurred, with each warrior facing their personal demons. The mission unraveled as fear took root, and the hunters found themselves trapped in a nightmare of their own making, a direct consequence of the sins their forefathers had sown. The forest, alive with OJ's vengeful spirit, claimed them one by one, leaving behind a tale of caution and a legacy of unresolved. Iyanga steadied her breath. The serene pause was shattered by the presence of a mountain lion. Its eyes, reflecting the dying light of the sun, fixed on Obika with an unsettling interest. Iyanga's grip on her spear tightened. Every muscle tensed for the confrontation she dreaded yet was prepared to face. Obika, unfazed by the danger, giggled at the sight of the lion. His markings glowed brighter, casting an ethereal light over the small clearing. The mountain lion, pausing mid-step, watching Iyanga fiercely. Obika began to giggle while maintaining eye contact with the lion. As the lion approached Iyanga gently, her heart spinning faster than a hula hoop, she knew it was either one of them submitted, and it wasn't going to be her. In that fierce moment, the lion roared. Cold ran down Iyanga's spine as she let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. Realizing this, Obika let out a soft glow which made the lion submit by turning back. In the shadowed folds of the towering mountains, obscured by mist and the secrets of ages, lay a village rarely spoken of, an enclave of warriors known as the Jalo. Legends whispered of their unmatched skills and unbreakable vows of secrecy, making them ghosts in the eyes of the common folk. The villagers watched warily as the stranger approached. Their homes, built from the very stone of the mountains, seemed as impenetrable as their expressions. Iyanga, with her heart pounding, called out to them, her voice echoing against the stone. She pleaded for their help, her words carried by the wind, but met with cold stares and turned backs. As she moved through the narrow stone-paved streets, trying to connect with anyone who would listen, her presence eventually stirred unease among the village leaders. A group of soldiers garbed in traditional mountain armor that clinked with every stern step approached her. Without a word, they grasped her arms firmly, their grip unyielding as they escorted her away from the prying eyes of the villagers. Confusion and fear gripped Iyanga as she was led to a small interrogation room. Iyanga sat alone, her thoughts racing back and forth. The chilling silence of the cell was a harsh contrast to the vibrant life she had always known in Omidan. Hours later, just as the light began to fade from the small window high above, the door creaked open. The same soldiers who had detained her now motioned for her to follow them. Led into the village hall, a rustic longhouse adorned with symbols of their ancestors, Iyanga found herself facing the village chieftain and his council. Their faces were stern, yet not without curiosity. Standing before the wary leaders, Iyanga took a deep breath and began to share her tale. Her voice, though steady, carried the weight of her trials, the eerie powers of OJ that haunted her family, the loss of Deji to the same darkness that now threatened her son, and the perilous journey they had endured. She spoke of the supernatural forces at play, OJ's quest for vengeance, and her desperate need for allies to fight a threat that loomed larger than anything the villagers could imagine. As skepticism flickered across the faces before her, Iyanga made a bold decision. She called for Obika, who was quickly brought to her side. Before the council's eyes, she gently prompted her son, whose innocent eyes and youthful face seemed to believe the gravity of his birthright. At her nod, Obika's markings began to glow, a soft light that slowly filled the room. The display was not just a show of power, but a testament to the legacy and the curse that her family bore. She implored them to help rescue her husband Deji and protect Obika, to stand against the shadow that sought to reclaim their world. The village council exchanged looks, the earlier skepticism giving way to a dawning realization of the role they could play in this ancient saga. Here was not just a mother fighting for her son, but a bearer of a legacy that intertwined with their own storied past. As the light from Obika faded, the chieftain stood, his voice resonating through the hall. He declared their decision to deliberate further, influenced not just by Iyanga's words and Obika's display, but by the courage she had shown in seeking them out. Iyanga was granted the freedom of the village, no longer a prisoner but a guest, as they considered the role they would play in the unfolding drama that tied their destinies together. Deji forges through the dense underbrush, each step heavy with determination. A subtle change begins to manifest within him. His senses, already sharpened by the fraught journey, start to tune into an almost magnetic pull in the direction of Iyanga and Obika. As he moves closer, an eerie luminescence begins to flicker in his eyes, a newfound power awakening within him. That night, Deji's journey is abruptly challenged by a massive bear, its figure emerging ominously from the shadows of the trees. The bear stands as a towering figure of primal fury, but Deji does not flinch. Instead, the air around him thrums with energy, his eyes blazing with the silver light of a warrior, not just defending his passage, but asserting his dominion. With a roar that splits the night, Deji confronts the beast. His movements are swift, more graceful than ever, powered by the adrenaline of his purpose and the mystical energy coursing through him. In a display of raw strength that he himself barely comprehends, he grapples with the bear, his hands finding the brute's thick fur. With a primal yell, he rends the creature apart, his actions as much a declaration of his power as a necessity for survival. Deji felt the power surge within him, and this time, something else was awakened. The king summons his council, an assembly of the oldest and wisest heads in the village. One elder, his voice trembling, speaks of ancient prophecies that foretold the return of Uje in times of great turmoil. Another recalls tales of her wrath, how she could bend the will of the strongest men and turn brother against brother. With each story, the weight of their forefathers' misdeeds grows heavier, and the council members exchange uneasy glances, knowing that their fate might be sealed by the same dark forces. Word of the warriors' mysterious deaths spreads like wildfire through Omidan. The villagers' whispers grow into cries of panic as fear takes hold. Families barricade themselves inside their homes, praying to the ancient gods for protection against a curse they do not fully understand. In the market square, a group of young villagers gathers, their faces set in grim determination. They speak of forming a militia to guard the village against whatever darkness may come their way. The elders watch them, pride mingling with fear, knowing that the courage of youth might be the village's last hope. As night falls, a dense fog rolls in from the forest surrounding Omidan. Shadows move within the mist, shapes that are neither man nor beast, whispering in a language forgotten by time. Suddenly, the village bell tolls, its deep clang resounding through the night, a signal of imminent danger. From the edge of the village, a scream pierces the night, followed by a clamor of voices. The militia, torches in hand, rushes towards the source of the disturbance, only to find the village gate mysteriously ajar, the guards nowhere to be seen. In the heart of Omidan, chaos erupts. Families rush to the square, seeking safety in numbers, their faces haunted by fear. The elders, their voices raised in frantic incantations, attempt to ward off the dark spirits with ancient rites. As the fog thickens, swallowing the dim light of the torches, the villagers circle closer, their eyes darting to the shifting shadows at the fringes of the light. Amidst the whispering winds and the faint flicker of torchlight, a seasoned voice rose above the murmur of the crowd, its timbre rich with the wisdom of many winters. He was the village storyteller, a revered elder whose tales had long served as the backbone of community gatherings. With a commanding presence, he stepped into the circle of light, his eyes alight with a fire undimmed by age. The villagers fell silent, their attention captured by the figure who seemed as ancient as the tales he told. "Hear me, children of Omidan," he began, his voice resonating through the cold air. "This night is thick with fear, yes, but remember, it is in the darkest times that the brightest lights of courage can shine. We are the descendants of warriors and sages, of those who have faced shadows not unlike these and emerged stronger." His words stirred a warmth in their chests, a spark in the cold night. Let not the ghostly whispers of the forest unmake the bonds that hold us. We are woven from the fabric of resilience and unity. Our ancestors faced down beasts of flesh and blood, and we too shall stand against shadows of death. The storyteller's gaze swept across the young faces before him, seeing their resolve begin to flicker to life. Be inspired by the legends you've grown on heroes who turned the tide with their valor. Be the bearers of their legacy. Let your actions tonight be the stories told in times to come, tales of bravery that will light the paths of future generations. Rise, Omidan. Stand together as a beacon against this darkness. Let your unity be the shield that guards your spirits." As the elder spoke, his visage seemed to transcend the creeping frailty of age, his form almost aglow with the fervor of his convictions. Yet, as his inspirational crescendo reached its peak, a sudden weariness overtook him. The lines on his face deepened, his robust voice cracked, and his vibrant energy waned visibly. With a final, strained effort, he whispered, "Hold fast to who you are, Omidan, for that is the light that no darkness can quench." With those last words, his strength faltered, and he collapsed, life seeming to drain from him as the villagers watched in horror as his flesh decayed, leaving just bones. The man who had stood as a pillar of strength, aged decades in mere moments, his life ebbing away before their eyes. The shock of his dramatic decline sent a wave of panic through the crowd. The sudden realization of Uje's power, now starkly manifested in the loss of their beloved storyteller, shattered any fledgling bravery. The villagers scattered, their fleeting unity dissolving into chaos as each person grappled with the terror of the unknown, the power of Uje haunting them into the night. Uje's encroaching dominance became increasingly clear. Whispers of her malevolent spirit were no longer confined to the shadowy depths of the cave. They started to seep into every crevice of daily life, stirring unrest and dread among the villagers. These were the marks of Uje's wrath, slowly choking the life from Omidan. But her spectral resurgence was not yet complete. To fully manifest her powers and break free from the ethereal chains that bound her to the cave, Uje required a catalyst, a source of ancient and potent magic that could anchor her spirit to the physical world. This crucial element was found in Obika. The unique energy signature of Obika's powers resonated with the ancient bindings that constrained Uje, making him the key to her ultimate release. His presence was a beacon, unwittingly cutting through the spiritual fog that limited her. As Deji trudged deeper into the wilderness, the uncanny change within him intensified. This burgeoning sensitivity did not manifest merely as enhanced physical acuity, but as a profound psychic awakening. Visions started to flicker. These were not the random imaginings of a fatigued mind. They were direct glimpses into the lives of Iyanga and Obika. He saw Iyanga, her face etched with determination and maternal fear as she shielded their son from unseen threats. These visions came to Deji with alarming clarity, each one a piercing arrow of emotion, love, fear, desperation. This psychic odyssey did not just prepare Deji for the physical reunion with his family. It transformed him. By his vision, he could navigate the whereabouts of his family. Upon entering the village, his arrival is met with a mixture of awe and fear. The villagers, drawn by the commotion and the tales of a glowing-eyed warrior, gather around, their murmurs blending with the wind. Deji, his eyes now a mirror to his soul, scans the crowd, searching for faces he yearns to see. News quickly reaches Iyanga that a strange-looking man was in the village square, and the villagers suspect that the man must have followed Iyanga here. Two strangers entering their village in a matter of days was no coincidence. Finally, his gaze locks onto Iyanga and Obika, standing at the edge of the assembly. The moment their eyes meet, the luminescence in his eyes softens, replaced by tears of relief and joy. Iyanga runs towards him, Obika clutched tightly in her arms. And in that embrace, under the watchful eyes of the mountain tribe, Deji understands the true nature of his journey, not a path to power, but a return to the heart of his family, fortified not by fear or domination, but by love and protection. In the wake of a deeply emotional reunion, the warmth of familial bonds briefly cocoons Deji, Iyanga, and Obika. However, this tender moment morphs into chilling dread as Deji's relief is swiftly overshadowed by a sinister force. As he embraces Obika, a sudden icy shiver disrupts the moment his eyes flicker unnaturally, mirroring the darkened skies above. The palpable shift in the air heralds the invasive presence of OJ, who has not ceased her malevolent pursuit. She seeks to weave her essence into Deji's, aiming to bend his will to her destructive desires. At first, the signs are subtle: a tenseness in his shoulders, a distant look in his eyes that Iyanga knows all too well does not belong to the man she loves. OJ's spectral influence grows stronger, urging Deji to act against his nature. Compelled by her power one night while the family was asleep, he grasps Obika, his movements robotic and foreign. As he moves toward the village's shadowed edges, intent on delivering his son to OJ, he is intercepted by Ik, the village's guardian, whose duty to protect is as ingrained as the tattoos that mark his warrior's body. Deji, fueled by a dark energy, confronts Ik. His actions, though not his own, are potent and terrifying in their precision. Ik, ever the skilled warrior, meets Deji's enhanced strength with a disciplined calm, his maneuvers honed by years of training. Their battle is a tempest of clashing wills and metal, casting eerie shadows across the village grounds, drawing the fearful gazes of villagers and the distraught eyes of Iyanga. Upon reaching the scene, Iyanga's breath caught in her throat at the sight of Ik pinning Deji to the ground, with Obika crying nearby, safely out of the fray but clearly distressed. Her initial fury at LK turned to confusion and fear as a villager held her back, quickly explaining that Deji was under the influence of OJ's spirit, intent on delivering their son to the darkness. With her anger subsiding into a desperate hope, Iyanga watched as LK and other villagers restrained Deji and carried him to the oracle's shrine. Recognizing the true nature of Deji's condition, the village elders summoned their shaman to lead a desperate ritual to exorcise OJ's influence. The ceremonial ground becomes a crucible of ancient magic and desperate hope. Iyanga, her voice shaky but strong, joins in the incantations, infusing the ritual with a mother's fierce desire to save her family. The sacred space is lined with runes and symbols that pulse with a soft but resilient light, forming a stark contrast to the darkness writhing within Deji.
As the ritual intensifies, Deji's tormented screams pierce the night, a harrowing symphony of pain as the tendrils of darkness are wrenched from his being. Ik and other villagers, firm in their resolve, hold Deji in place amidst his convulsions, anchoring him to the world he knows and away from the dark precipice on which he teeters. Finally, as dawn's first light filters through the trees, Deji's ordeal reaches its zenith. The shadows that had clung to him evaporate into the chill morning air, leaving behind a man shaken but free. Exhausted, he collapses into Iyanga's waiting arms, his eyes now clear, mirrors of the soul they truly reflect, untainted by the darkness that had ensnared him. The village, once a quiet sentinel in the mountains, awakens to a new day with a renewed spirit of unity and strength. The ordeal with OJ has bound them closer than ever, each villager now keenly aware of the stakes that extend beyond their hidden enclave. As they rally around Deji and his family, their resolve to face future threats solidifies, fortified by the trials they've endured together. The battle against OJ may continue, but with their combined strength and newfound bonds, whatever may come with unwavering courage and collective might. Omidan remained in darkness and fear as the sins of their forefathers dealt with them. But with each passing day, Obika was growing, not just in age, but as the beacon of salvation the world desperately needed.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video.